The Mystery of BELICENA VILLCA. Fourth Book. The Story of Kurt von Superman. Chapter 3. At the 21:30 hours, Uncle Kurt settled down in a comfortable hammock next to my bed, and after remaining thoughtful for a moment he began to talk. He had been meditating about what happened, and he had taken a decision. "Look, Eiichiro," he said with solemn tone, trying to be convincing, "I comprehend that you'll be impatient to obtain the answers that have been brought you until here, but you must give me time to read the letter of BELICENA VILLCA. It is an extensive manuscript, and it will take me many days to assimilate it, but it is necessary for me to do it before responding to your queries. Thereby, I'll have the antecedent about what you know, I'll appreciate what is missing for you to know, and I'll be able to express with precision." He was awaiting my approval without conditions. Nevertheless, I believed that in nothing would affect him to advance me some answer. "I agree, Uncle Kurt, to give you time to read the letter. But, tell me now how it is possible that the day of my arrival, you were waiting an attack of the druids. I mean, how did you know that they were just to come?" "Because the previous day, I had heard the buzz, the unmistakable buzz of the honeybee, that reveals the employment of the dorji, over the heart." "Yes, Nif. Since that instant an uncontrollable tachycardia still persists. But, once again all their tricks failed before the powers with which the gods have gifted me, and they will be obeyed to deal face to face with me." His eyes shone defiant, but I wanted to clarify things. The illusion of the buzz and the dorji, links that BELICENA mentioned on the 25th day, when Beret and Bisha converted the blood of the lords of Tharsis in bleach, before reading her letter, that had left me freeze of stupor. Trembling, I asked him, "But, then, have you heard that buzz before?" "Of course, Eiichiro. I heard it, for first time in 1938, 42 years ago." "And where?" I inquired, with growing amazement, that went anticipating the surprising answer. "In the Tibet, in the frontier between the country and China. Was during an expedition of the doors of Changshambala. I felt the blood beating in my temples, I felt confused, dizzy, and I foresaw the possibility to lose my senses. The room had disappeared from my sight and in my mind, along with 1,000 concepts and situations that emerged from the letter of BELICENA VILLCA. The questions were reduced to its extreme abstraction. What, how, when, where, striving to take concrete form and straff to Uncle Kurt. He, who was averting my confusion, started to laugh happily. "Have you seen Nif?" I knew it. "It will be impossible for you to understand anything, in the manner in which you set forth the dialogue. I'll tell you everything, fear not. But, to take better advantage of my experience, to comprehend it, the best is to tell you my life's resume. I repeat you. Wait till I read the letter. Then I'll narrate you my past, and then your questions will have consistency, and my answers will acquire consistency. However," he continued, "as I see that your impatience is not small, I'll give something to think on during these days. If I've not misunderstood, you'll try to find an esoteric order that would exist presumably in Cordoba, an order dedicated to the study of the Hyperborean wisdom." I assented with a gesture. "Well, Nif, I'm in conditions to affirm that it's very possible that I dispose of precise news about such order. And not only about it, but also about the mysterious initiate who founded it." That was the last thing that I expected to hear, and, again, the lips remained shut while in my mind the questions were appearing with great rapidity. But Uncle Kurt didn't give me time to ask. "I'll prove it to you," he said, while he was unleashing a packet that he had brought dissimulated in his jacket. Undoubtedly, Uncle Kurt had no intentions to talk about that matter, at least that my impatience obeys him, and for that reason he had occulted such bundle. He would have not shown me it, in that moment if that wasn't necessary. At the end, a book of voluminous aspect remained in his hands, covered with thick tops lined in red cloth. Sustaining it before my eyes, he opened it, and the first sheet on it was announced in first term, the title of the book and the name of the author. Fundamentals of the Hyperborean Wisdom, by Nimrod of Rosario. At the bottom, an inscription gave indications about the affiliation of the book. Order of Terodal Knights, of the Argentinian Republic. When I read such brief phrases, Uncle Kurt turned the page, and he signalized a letter for the chosen ones, which was inserted in manner of prologue. At the end of the same, 3 pages after, was the firm of the author, Nimrod de Rosario, and the following indication. Córdoba, August 1979. 6 months. I exclaimed, just 6 months after its publication. How, Uncle Kurt, how hell it arrived to your hands? Ha, ha. Not precisely by the demon's will, but, thanks to my good friend Esca, who died just 3 months ago, and he took the secret to the tomb. Here, he went serious, at noticing the disenchantment in my face. I know that this part of the news will not cause any pleasantness, but, it is preferable to know the truth beforehand. Esca, about whom I'll talk you later, had been as a refugee in the Argentina since 1947. Just as your parents, and other comrades, I used to meet with him twice a year. After these secret meetings we returned to our habitual works. Nor letter, nor telephone, nothing had to entail us, if we wanted to continue free. To me, was already known that a secret organization was following me which orders said without doubts execute him wherever be found. But, the case of Esca, was different. He was officially followed to be judged by crimes of war, and the claim was made by the Soviet Union, because Escadfil was natal of Estonia. But Esca, who passed as Italian immigrant with the name Domingo Pietratesta, he had contracted marriage in the Argentina, and he had a beautiful family that he had to protect above all things. In his case was not even possible to think to be captured by the enemy. For such reason, we extremed the precautions to meet every 6 months. And, is that we could not stop seeing each other, because we were endearing comrades, not only since the war, but from many years before, since the age in which we were in the school Nepala. Oh, Esca, Esca, sighed my uncle. A friend for more than a lifetime. A company to conquer heavens and hells, a comrade for the eternity. But he died. I said, babbling, to bring Uncle Kurt to reality. He remained in silence for an instant. Finally, he seemed to turn back to me, and he continued with his narration. Yes, Nif. Esca died 4 months ago, of natural death, according to all the versions, but it is not occulted that it could have been murdered. Whatever could be his death, his wife would never denounce the truth openly. The future of the 3 sons of Esca would obey her to bid the lips before talking about it. So, I ignore with certainty what happened, due to, by obvious reasons, I could never approach to his family until a long time. 1 year or more. But, let's go to what concerns you, Echiro. He said with energy, after breathing deeply, like saying goodbye to his dead friend. 18 years ago, more or less, we met in the province of Jujuy, in the Providential Hotel of Tilcara. We passed as tourists, who visited the famous Pucara. There, I noticed him excited and happy. He had found, said Mayim that moment, to those who possessed a direct contact with the fount of the Hyperborean wisdom, that's to say, with the same fount that nourished the wisdom of our initiated instructors of the Black Order SS. According to Esca, after 35 years of democratic and Judaic shadows, the spiritual light of the Black Sun appeared again. Yes, after 35 years, during which the enemy shed every kind of calumnies about the wisdom of the order, and after that hundreds of impostors, often mere personal subaltern of the SS, who ignored the secrets of the order, sowed the confusion about the initiatic teaching that was imparted on it. In Córdoba, explained Esca, to me, had appeared a great initiate, who made call himself Nimrod of Rosario. D. Rosario it seems, to differentiate his surname from the historical Nimrod, a Kassite king, who lived 2,000 years before Christ. But this was the anecdotic. The important consisted in that such initiate dominated all the sciences of Occident, and especially the Hyperborean wisdom, in such high grade as Esker had never seen out of Germany, and since the last days of the war, 35 years ago. In reality, would be necessary to go back to such days and to the men who headed the Black Order in secrecy, in particular to Conrad Tarstein, to find an equivalent initiate. At least that was the opinion of Esker. Of course, out from the inevitable comparisons, and of what they had in common, existed abysmal differences between Nimrod and our old instructors. Naturally, there was no difference in regard to the honor, or the Hyperborean wisdom itself. In this field all was analogous to the SS, and it is logic that when he organized the followers of the Hyperborean wisdom, Nimrod was obeyed to count with what the reality of 1979, offered him. I still remember the words of Esker when he spoke about the spiritual incompetence of his followers. Believe me, Kurt, that Nimrod is missing a racial selection as the one which was practiced in Germany, and from which we emerged. I know. We're not in Germany, but in the mestizo third world. I'm just proposing an impossible possibility, a game of imagination. Is the grief to see how his efforts fall into the void, are wasted by people that can't drop out this century. However, and without neither remotely the discipline of the SS, he has achieved to form an important support group that permits him to develop his strategy, with people who came from the traditional esoterism, especially many of those who understood that the Gnostic Church of Somaliland is just another synarchic sect, and other coming from Argentinian nationalism, it means men with fascist political formation. With them, he founded the Order of Teradal Knights, in which a Hyperborean initiation is given in everything similar to the one that we received in the SS. But the Hyperborean initiation, which is the first of the three that are required for the spiritual liberation and the return to the origin, continued Esker, can only be administered by whom exhibits the second initiation, that's to say, for a Hyperborean pontiff. Nimrod is, thereby, a Hyperborean pontiff. How he obtained his second initiation, nobody knows, but you and me know very well that only the unknown superiors, the lords of Venus, the Hyperborean gods conceded. Naturally, to comply with his mission, this initiate has prefabricated a past the most possible consistent, employing for it his irresistible power over the illusory structure of the reality. But this does not matter. His past, and the contradictions that could be proved in him, are just interest to the enemy. For us, dear Kurt, the truth, the undeniable, is that his wisdom comes from an irreproachable source, the Lords of Agartha. And what is his mission? Wondered Esker. It is also an enigma. It seems to be linked to the quest for determined persons to whom would be necessary to orientate strategically to fulfill a role in the next total war. All his effort is placed in that quest, but I don't think that he has been lucky, because, as I told you, his collaborators are not the most indicate for the practice of the high magic. Indeed, there are very few initiates in the Teradal order, and no one respond to the exigencies of the mysterious mission. This asseveration is not a subjective presumption, but a confidence of the own Nimrod. In fact, when I met with the pontiff for first time, he, who demonstrated to possess the power to read the initiatic runes, congratulated me for the great reached in the Black Order, but he evidenced a visible disenchantment. Before my surprise, he apologized immediately, and explained me courteously that, when he received a chosen one for first time, he always shouted the hope that he'd be the one who would comply with the mission of the gods. This commentary clarified me everything, and I understood in the act that I, obviously, was not one of them that Nimrod was waiting for. However, he treated me with camaraderie, and offered me to participate in the order, realizing functions extremely reserved, that would not put in danger my position. I accepted, of course. and I took advantage from his trust to inquire something more about the unfortunate quest for the chosen ones, apt to carry out the designs of the gods, quest that would be almost impossible in the infernal context of actual age. The kind of people that you are searching for, Nimrod, is of superior quality to the initiates of the Black Order SS. It is not about quality, but of strategic confusion, Mr. Pietrastata. Perhaps, if it is achieved to transfer one of such initiates of the Wurelsburg castle to this age, without experience the pass of time, we'd have a comrade apt for the mission. But, now, certainly, we don't have such a man. Our own initiates could be apt for the mission if they assume the initiation completely, and dominate their animic nature, if they decide to be what they are. But it is difficult, very difficult, that the spiritual men of this age count with the necessary courage to stop being what they feign to be, and be definitively what they really are. However, the gods are sure that exist men capable of such courage, that the doors of the mystery must stay opened until they reach here, or until that those who are here transmute themselves. And this certainty is the one that gives us force to go on, Comrade Pietrastata. I was in a house of the city of Cordoba, clarified Esca, that belongs to the Tiretal order. In the white room, furnished as office, before an impotent escritoire, was Nimrod seated watching me attentively. He finally opened a bin, and extracted a book of red covers. Mr. Priestatesta, he said with seriousness. No one reached to this place, if he has not been investigated previously in heaven and earth. You have satisfied the requirements, and for that reason, we offer you this opportunity to enter in the Tiretal order, and become one of its initiates. All those who enter must realize the same acts, which are very simple. Basically, they consist in to comprehend and accept the fundamentals of the Hyperborean wisdom that, for benefit of the chosen ones, we've synthesized in this book. He gave the red book. The income mechanism demands that you read this book, and decide if you understand and accept its content. If the resolution is positive, you remain immediately incorporated to the order, and you acquire the right to accede to the other 13 books that compose the second part of the fundamentals, and contain the secret preparation for the Hyperborean initiation. You just have to return the book, and abstain to make copies, to remain detached from the order. I must warn you, he said with threatening tone, that the fault to this condition is punished severely by the order.